Hello and welcome everyone. I'm really excited today because I'm joined by the lovely Wyn Morgan, and I've known Wyn for a while now. So welcome, Wyn. Thank you for
Hi.
coming today. And Wyn is a transformational coach and trainer. He works with individuals on a one-to-one basis and corporates and multinational companies. He goes in and trains them. And for those of you who obviously know me, he's my coach as well. So he's responsible for everything that you see happening. No, I'm only kidding.
Responsible for everything that people don't like. And
Yeah.
you take the credit for the things that go really well. How
Absolutely.
about that?
That's right. Absolutely. But Wyn's agreed to come along today to have a chat to me and to share with some of his wisdom and what he sees about life, which he thinks is going to be really helpful to all of you and some of the challenges that you face. So I thought that a really good topic, which seems to be on everybody's mind at the moment, is how can we avoid the dips in life? I thought that might be a nice place to say, because I have lots of conversations with people who say, oh, I was up in my head last week, or, I don't feel so good today. What can I do about it? Or how can I stop that from happening in the future? And it seems in my mind we waste a lot of time and a lot of focusing on that. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I really wanted to avoid the dips in life because I'm prevalent to dips over the years. And a very good track record of having quite deep dips that lasted for quite a while. And I seriously thought that the idea was if I learn enough, I'll avoid them. And then when I really started to understand how human beings are in the way that we operate, I thought if I really understood that, then that would help me avoid the dips. But then I was told that that's not really on offer. And I'm pretty sure I went pale as a sheet. I went totally white. And I went, what do you mean it's not on offer? What am I doing anything for then? I just don't want to do the dips anymore. I don't want to feel down. I don't want to get into my head. I don't want to get all that sticky stuff going on up in here. But I was then told quite moments later that you can have a different relationship with those dips. The dips are inevitable, but you don't have to take them so seriously when you understand them. And I was like, huh? Tell me more. Fast forward now, and that's, I don't know, 7 years ago now, 7 years ago this month, in fact, that conversation happened. And what I now know, and I'll give you a real example, it was 2 weeks ago. And I didn't have an early morning appointment, so I could have the luxury of a Tuesday sleep in. And I think my first meeting with anyone was at midday on Zoom. So I knew I could stay in bed till at least 10. So I'm wide awake still, I don't know, at 7. And then I doze off for a bit and I wake up at 8 and I doze off for a bit and it's 8:20. But in all of that, my mood was really low. I was having a dip. And I was going to cancel everything. I was going to cancel meeting up with friends virtually and meeting up with a couple of friends in person. Everything I thought, yeah, I'm not doing that, not doing that, not doing that. And I could just, there's no way I can get into that. No way. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Not doing that. And it was a horrible morning. At some point in the mid-afternoon, possibly after my second call with somebody that day, I felt amazing. And here's what I know. That wouldn't have happened 8 years ago. I'd have really tried to get over my low mood in the morning. And I would have, by virtue of trying to get over it, would have helped it stay. And it might be worth a little explaining of how on earth that actually works that way. I know enough that when I'm in a dip, my thinking looks real. my thinking looks personal, and my thinking looks personal, permanent. It looks personal, permanent, and real. But I also know that the worse I feel, the less true those things are.
Mm.
It's like a very compelling mirage that when I'm feeling low, just like every other human being, when we're feeling low, we ain't seeing things straight. And the beautiful thing as well in the relief of that is that the seeing things straight takes care of itself when we're not trying to dig about in it. So if my thinking is off, my thinking looks real, my thinking looks personal, and it looks permanent. More thinking when my thinking's off anyway can't be the solution. Can't be. So when we try to get out of that and we're trying to grapple in our minds with all that stuff, what we're doing is more of the same that got us into the low mood to begin with. So I remember the first time I said this to somebody, it's like drowning and drinking water at the same time, thinking that drinking water is going to save us from drowning. It makes no sense.
Mm.
But we bounce back automatically. I didn't have to do anything for the mood to lift, for the dip to get back into even keel or to feel great later on that afternoon. I just went on with my day. And it just bounced back, as it always does. You know, it feels to me like a tennis ball underwater. I don't have to hold on or anything like that, but the tennis ball underwater will naturally just bounce back up to the surface. And we're all like that. But what we do is innocently have the tennis ball under the water, and we think that I need to analyze it and play with it in order for that to bounce back. But no, we don't have to do any of that. It does bounce back. That was a revelation to me when I first really noticed that. And I can still notice it now. 2 weeks ago, I think today was when that happened. It's really cool to notice. So it might sound like bad news to anybody hoping that we're going to get some answers to, and I'm going to personally get an answer to, how do I avoid the dips? But when we understand with perspective and what a dip is, there's nothing that requires fixing. And when we try to, it doesn't tend to go as well.
Mm. It's so true, isn't it? So true that we spend so, you know, our first reaction is to try and fix it.
Mm.
And I was just reflecting when you're talking that often happens as well in relationships with other people. When you can see somebody close to you having a dip, you want to go in and fix it. You know, you want to tell them something that's going to make them snap out of it or feel better, but actually what we're innocently doing is just keep stirring the pot and kind of keeping them in that state, because then they react and they do more thinking, and it just prolongs it, really, doesn't it? You know, when really you just need some space. And as well, what came to mind is to know that you don't have to take action in that space, right? To hopefully have the presence of mind that you don't act on it.
Yeah.
You know, that you don't cancel your appointments, that you don't change the course of direction of your decisions or anything like that. You just kind of almost act in the way that you were acting, whatever your head's doing.
Yeah. And it would be very easy for me, as it has happened in other times of my life, where I'd have a morning like that and I wouldn't get up.
Mm.
But at some point, I always did. And in this day that I was thinking of now, this Tuesday a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure I didn't force my right leg out from under the duvet to then go onto the floor and then follow it. Okay, left hip now follows suit to therefore guide my left leg. That didn't happen. I just found myself at some point in the shower, not long after I would have got up anyway, and got on with my day. Because I don't, now what I know is that I don't think that having a dip has the necessary impact that we think it does on how well we do. I've done great, delivered training, been coaching people, while it looks to me like my life's falling apart.
Yeah.
And I've done a mediocre job when I felt awesome.
Mm.
I know which day I'd prefer.
Yeah.
I prefer to have a good mood and do great, right? However, noticing that there isn't the causal link that it looks like there is, that how I feel on the inside has a direct causal relationship to how I do. It looks like that's true, and it isn't.
Yeah.
And
It does
that
look.
to me is a huge relief. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does look like that.
Yeah. But it is, you're right. It's a huge relief to know that it isn't.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking back to days when I've had dips and I felt like that, I've been in bed and it's, you just, it's a Netflix and duvet day, and it's like, that's all you want to do. And I can still remember trying to force myself to do things. Right, go on, have a shower. And then of course the other thought is, no, I want to stay in bed. I'm not going to, and you then have this battle. So it looks like you can't do anything because you've got a battle in your mind. And what I've noticed is the more that I'm at peace with just having a dip, it's like, okay, this is the channel today. Again, like you, I find I'm in the shower, I'm doing my hair, the makeup gets put on, I'm having breakfast, and then I'm on a call, and it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't actually aware I was doing any of this today, but I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
It's
was,
really good to notice.
yeah, there's no kind of struggle, is there? It's yeah. I think when you said that, there's no causal link. I think that's such an important point.
And I remember thinking this, right? That, well, that must be true. The performance of how we do a task moment by moment is determined by the mood that we're in.
Mm.
But I've noticed, and I had to notice this for myself as opposed to learn it from a book or from one of my own coaches or mentors. I had to see it for myself. But then when I looked, I saw it all over the place in my history and in my present moment, that's totally true. And often it looks totally counterintuitive well, what do you mean? But anyone listening to this right now or watching this, just take a look. I remember me having a very difficult day in one of those moments where it did look like one of those days where it looked like my life was falling apart, which of course it wasn't, but it did feel like it was, because that's what feelings can do sometimes. And I was delivering a training course for a group in a company I'd worked with for, well, even up to then, 15 odd years I'd worked with that company. And a few of the people in that group that day I'd known for a few years. And one of them I think she was, in Ireland. So, and this was in London, and I would drive into West London from where I live in Berkshire. So I gave her a ride back to Heathrow Airport so she could take the flight back to Dublin. And I asked her, how was today? She said, yeah, really good day, really interesting. How was I? Because she'd seen me train a few times and we'd become, quite good friends. So I felt okay in asking her this stuff. Great. Yeah, just full of beans, great, made loads of us think. We were all commenting on that during lunch and in the afternoon. And then she said, why? Why'd you ask? So it's a tough day. There's some stuff going on in my personal life that isn't great right now. I said, oh, sorry, but wouldn't have known. Oh. And that's not me putting a brave face on it during that time. Because what was amazing to me as I then, after dropping her back at Heathrow and then, half an hour then in the car, solo back home here, it was to notice that I wasn't trying to put a brave face on it. In the moments where I was paying attention and being present to the group and what the day was all about for them, all the other stuff in my life didn't exist. In that moment, my whole attention in my mind was all on them. So therefore, what was happening in outside of that ceased to be in my mind, and therefore there was nothing I needed to put a brave face on, because it didn't exist in that moment. Look, and I got home and I cried that night. But I find that extraordinarily, an extraordinary human capacity for all of us, that we are that way.
Yeah.
It's really nice to notice. And I know while that's an extreme, in my mind, it's quite an extreme case. It's really good to know, if we're taking it to more lighter, when we are in our sticky thinking, we don't have to do anything about that, because the stickiness dissolves of its own accord. But when we try and do something about it, we are thinking more, and more thinking, when the thinking is the problem, is adding more glue to the sticky. Not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that story that you shared, and also the insight that it just doesn't exist. Because I think we use a lot of unhelpful, in my mind, unhelpful ways to describe it. You know, like, oh, we're pushing it to one side, or we're just putting a lid on it, you know, as though it's there and it's going to hijack us at any moment. You know, this low mood thinking is just going to spill out and overtake us when we don't want it to, you know. And I find it so useful to notice that, oh, it just wasn't there, like it didn't exist.
Yeah.
It's not waiting around the corner, or it just wasn't there, you know. And yeah, when we direct our mind to it later on, oh, but I was feeling so this earlier on, oh, we can bring it back again. You know, we can create it again, but in that moment it just wasn't there. It just wasn't part of us. Yeah, I think it's so empowering to know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. You've triggered another thought as well that I had in what you just shared. You know, when we've got a feeling, sometimes that a feeling that we don't like, and then all of a sudden that's kind of like, it fades because we're thinking of something else, and all of a sudden that's there. But sometimes it feels like there's a bad feeling hangover, a residual kind of feeling there. What I used to do, and I still do it, I'd go and look for that bad feeling again to try and resolve that. Until I noticed, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
Because look, I'm not saying there are things in life that don't need to be looked at and resolved in our circumstances. But when it comes to the inner world of how we feel, no, that doesn't require solving, because it's an ever changing feast. It always is in transition, and it's only ever a reflection of the relationship that we've got with our thinking in the moment, not outside the world telling us all our life circumstances and, you know, how our business is doing, our relationships with colleagues and loved ones, all of that stuff. No, that's not how we're feeling. We're feeling this only, ever. And when we notice the relationship with this is up for grabs with what's going on, then we've got a higher level of noticing the perspective on ourselves. And life becomes so much easier then, when we're not trying to fix a feeling, when a feeling will fix itself.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? You know, I mean, it happens with so many things, you know, whether it's an argument you've had with somebody, or maybe something you just feel really sad about, or even something you might feel angry about, you know, something's really upset you and you're still reacting to it. There is the tendency, isn't there, to want to go back, go, oh, why am I still feeling like that? And when we, as you say, you know, change that relationship and just, okay, that's just still there,
Yeah.
and know it will pass, it will just resolve itself, and it's okay to feel it. You know, it's like, I don't know, we make up rules that we should only be upset for a certain length of time, and then we call time on it and say, well, I shouldn't still be upset about that. Well, says who? Like, what is there, a rule book, like, you know, of how long you should be upset about something? It would just take as long as it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very true. Yeah.
yeah, it's good to know, isn't it, that it's all human.
Totally human. Totally human. And underneath all of that stuff that we think about ourselves, we are completely well. We're functioning great. It's just sometimes we don't think that we are.
No, yeah, no, isn't that good? And it goes back a little to what we were saying earlier about, you know, the idea that we have that we're kind of constant, you know, and we need to be in a certain way, you know, and we have to feel in a certain way to act in a certain way. So it's almost like we're looking to be a perfect human and kind of do life right. And if we can't get it right in our head, then we can't get it right in life. And I mean, I know we've had lots of conversations about this, because I was in that I want to do life right camp for a long time, and I still go in there every now and again. And it's when we know that actually we're always doing life right, because we are right and we can't actually do life wrong. It's just that's what we're thinking in the moment.
Yeah. And it's amazing that when we listen to ourselves, and I, you know, and you and I both, we listen to clients' reflections on life and how they're doing and all that kind of stuff. How many of us have the "Am I doing life right?"
Yeah.
You know, the notion of living my best life is a phrase I'm hearing a lot these days.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, you are every moment. Let's face it. I mean, how could you not be? But here's the thing, though, and while, you know, if you're listening to this right now, I would say, look to see this for you, not just take as what Andrew and I are saying as gospel. We wouldn't want that. We need to see this for ourselves, and therefore it's not a clever belief or a reframe. Look to see what you notice for yourself as true,
Mm.
and have an open mind to seeing things differently, and you'd be amazed at what you might notice there,
Yeah.
including that notion of how could I possibly be living life wrong?
Oh, but we do, don't we? Because we demonize the dips and what we consider to be unhelpful thinking, and we don't want that, and we,
Yeah,
you know, we want to fix that, and we just want all the good stuff in our mind. What is the good stuff? And that we have to be in a certain frame of mind to work efficiently and to effectively. So we have this illusion of this amazing human being who is constantly connected to their, you know, their deeper knowing and their wisdom, and has this beautiful clarity of mind all the time, and is happy and peaceful, and never gets disrupted by anything. And we're like, yeah, I want to be like that, except it's a complete illusion.
it is. It is.
And when
And
we're
it,
not like that, we beat ourselves up.
right, because we think perfection is what's on offer. Well, look, we know better than that.
Yeah.
When we have realized that we are human and perfectly human,
Yeah.
all of a sudden that, you know, latitude, headspace, all of that stuff can get released. And therefore we just deal with life as opposed to deal with our psychology, because there's nothing that requires dealing with up in our own heads that doesn't resolve itself, because it doesn't really exist. So
Yeah.
the judgment of, am I living my best life? Am I good enough? Am I perfect? Am I living up to my standards and my expectations? All of that noise, all that does is put more of our headspace and attention inside our own heads, and that's never as fun as looking that way at life as opposed to analyzing ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Wyn. It's
You're
been
welcome.
lovely chatting to you.
Likewise.
And I think it's just such a beautiful topic to explore, and so useful and helpful. And I know those listening will be hearing lots of different things in that, I'm sure. So thank you very
Oh, I
much
hope so.
indeed. And if anyone wants to find out more about you or follow you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Well, probably the best way, as opposed to writing anything down, would be to look at the link that you've just added below this. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm easy to find. There's only 2 Wyn Morgans that I've got any kind of presence online. One of them's an economics professor in Nottingham, if I remember. And we connected, he and I did, the other Wyn Morgan, connected on LinkedIn because he was getting people asking for this one, and I was getting requests for, are you the other one? So yeah, there's only 2 of us, and Wyn Morgan is a very easy one to find.
It is. It is. Oh, well, thank you so much. And
Thank you,
I want to
Andrea.
see you soon.
Take care.